because at some point it's sort of like the party is working for you, you're in your position.
Now, speaking of South Carolina, if there's a person here who can talk about South Carolina, he was the president from South Carolina in a fictitious world.
Oh my goodness.
But we cannot not talk about this interview.
And I didn't
see it. It was taken very seriously for some reason, but enjoy.
But is it too late? Is there anyone in this country of 350 million people who could jump in at this late date and re-scramble the calculus of electoral politics? Well, there may be someone, and in fact, you already know him. You know his face. And the question is, will he get in this cycle? And that's my question for you.
Well, that's really a decision for the people, Tucker. It's not something that I really think about or want to do. And Merry Christmas to you, too. But I've always believed that nothing should be off the table in life or in art. I think we could both agree that we need to get some adults back in the room. So if that means taking on the chief executive role, well, that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make for this great nation.
You know, you and I have something in common, actually.
Oh, yes, we both got canned by our network.
True, but they actually tried to kill you.
Yes, but here we are, Tucker, bigger than ever.
So looking back on all the drama, do you think that legacy media played a role in what happened to you?
Look, I think they're trying to do their best to stay relevant. Look, platforms like X, I mean, you move information around so quick that everybody else is just playing catch up. Legacy media's diligence has turned out to be they just cut and paste what some trusted outlet does. I mean, look, this will be a good example. Watch how they report on this conversation. There'll be one or two headlines that get repeated over and over and over. I think actually if legacy media wants to survive, they're going to have to start slowing down.
That's smart. I agree with that. By the way, do you watch Netflix anymore?
Probably as much as you watch Fox.
Fair. So that doesn't mean that you're gone though from Netflix. I don't even know if you're aware of this, but every time a person pulls up the Netflix app, you're there in some way. Have you seen this?
Yes, you know what that is? Boom, boom. So it is bizarre that they decided to publicly cut ties with me on allegations alone, allegations that have now been proven false, because I don't think there's any question. Netflix exists because of me.
You know what else I know?
I have a lot of thoughts on this, but first of all, first and foremost, I love House of Cards, and I loved him in House of Cards, and I've liked him as an actor, and I really don't want to have any of my judgment of him be personal.
I mean, this is really impressive because, no, Rob, he's in character.
He was being Frank Underwood. Yeah. He was playing his House of Cards character in the interview. And let me tell you something, from a PR perspective, no, it wasn't a skit. Well, I guess it kind of was.
It's like real meta shit. Like, it's really...
He did the interview answering questions about Kevin Spacey's life in character as Frank Underwood. And
it's
not a
like
bad...
He's become Frank Underwood.
Well, the thing is, not a bad move. From a PR perspective, from where Kevin Spacey is right now, it's sort of like people don't necessarily like him that much right now, or he's not necessarily so likable. So it makes sense maybe to do it as Frank Underwood. I mean, and again, you know, disclaimer, I am a House of Cards fan.
So am I. I am not a fan of Kevin Spacey, and I'll tell you why. He is a phenomenal actor. I would never take that away from him. And he played a phenomenal role that he won several Emmys for, and rightfully so, just as he is a two-time Oscar winner and was in some of the great films of the modern era, including Seven, including The Usual Suspects, and including American Beauty, which in my opinion, even though he won the Best Actor for that particular film, that's the third of those films, because the other two were even better. The Usual Suspects still to this day has one of the greatest twist endings out of any film I've ever seen. And
Kevin Spacey's an amazing actor.
With all that being said, this guy was tight, and I mean watertight, with Bill Clinton, and was on Epstein's Island probably more times than can be counted in the logs.
And so like, how do you know that? How do you know that Kevin Spacey was on the island?
It's been reported as such.
Okay. I mean, I haven't followed that much.
And so my point is, okay, so he comes out and he's been acquitted of the charges, but that doesn't mean he's innocent. That is why we have courts of law. There are people who get off from their crimes all the time.
And actually, that is kind of what that means.
What do you mean?
I mean, if you're found not guilty, that means that you are not guilty.
I guess, but
Oh, no, I'm telling you exactly that's
you
what that
haven't
means.
proven your case beyond a reasonable
It's not
doubt.
his job to do so.
I know, I understand that. I'm not saying that I disagree with the court.
But then you are not guilty. Then in fact, you are. I mean, I guess what you're saying is there's a difference between being found not guilty and actually not being guilty, or a difference between not guilty and innocent, which, yes, there is a difference between those things. I mean, one is kind of a legal term and one is sort of a moral situation. But
the thing that was also interesting is Thomas Massie, our favorite resident Republican congressional member, he actually put out a tweet all the way back in 2015 when House of Cards was literally hitting its crescendo, if you will. And he said, and I quote, this is as accurate as it gets.
Yeah.
From the dressing, the mannerisms, the way that we go back and forth about policy, the way that the desks are, the chairs are, the way that these social gatherings are put together. And all I kept thinking is, does thou protest too much? Because that's kind of what I was thinking in terms of, there's no question that the Underwoods were portrayed to be the Clintons. That's the way it is.
Yeah.
And there are those who look into that and think, well, how is that possible? I'm like, did you not see how Robin Wright portrayed herself in her character? I mean,
Except I so prefer Claire Underwood to Hillary Clinton.
Well, sure, because Robin Wright's a great actress, but at the same time, there is no denying that reality that the Clintons were who that was modeled after.
No, and I'm just saying, literally, I prefer Claire Underwood. That character is still infinitely more preferable than Hillary Clinton.
Yeah. Well, Jay Boggs is right. Unfortunately, that is and that is going to be one of the legacies of the Me Too movement. Were there overwhelming amounts of women that told the truth and we're never going to see justice? Yeah, we do have a flawed legal system in this country. Do I think that, the motivation of why he did this, in some ways, I think it was a thumb in the eye. But then again, I think
it was just a safe way to do an interview for him.
I think that's true too.
To be in character. I think that like literally, and I think that actors have all sorts of weird mental shit about who they really are versus who they play and all sorts of weird stuff. And that's why I've got thoughts on that. But I think it was just a safe space for him to do that interview. Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.